have each of you here with us tonight to engage with the candidates and understand their visions and collective work for a stronger future for our city. I'm Cherie Thomas, founder of Pumps to the Polls. I will be the non-biased moderator here tonight. I would like to take a moment to have the candidates introduce themselves. They'll have 1 minute to introduce themselves. The rules of the actual debate will be each candidate will have 3 minutes other than introduction and closing to respond to each question. Also, each initial response, each opposing candidate have 1 minute to counter respond. The original respondent will have 1 minute for a rebuttal. We ask that everyone in attendance, including the candidates, remain respectful and ensure this is a productive and enlightful discussion. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Let's dive right in with opening statements from our first candidate, Sid Edwards.
Thank y'all for having me. Honored to be here. I'm the head football coach out of Struma High School and dean of students in the 70805 and have been for 2 years. Worked in that area of Baton Rouge for a long time. Lots of reasons of why I decided to get into this race. Amongst them, one of the biggest things is one of my young football players, 14 years old, was murdered on New Year's Day. Since that day, on that New Year's Day, January 1st, 2024, 4 more of our students that were affiliated with Struma High School have been murdered. I don't want to marginalize it and say, okay, that's why I'm running for mayor, but that was a catalyst. Coming into North Baton Rouge and peeling back the curtain and seeing the despair and the hurt and all the things the citizens of that area of town are encountering absolutely motivated me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you.
Mr. Ted James.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Thomas, and good evening, Coach. Good to see you. I am Ted James, native of Baton Rouge, born and raised right here in our community, and have been extremely blessed to serve in various different capacities. I'm a lawyer by trade, but spent 10 years in the legislature working on critical issues of importance to our community, from being one of the first supporters of our medical marijuana program to police reform in 2016 and again in 2020 after several incidents in our community, to flood recovery and tax reform. Went to the legislature and filed bills to protect flood victims from tax increases after the 2016 flood. After 10 years in the legislature, I was blessed to be appointed by the president to serve as a regional administrator for the SBA. Travel in the country really gave me an opportunity to see what other communities were doing and how local government was raising the quality of life in communities that don't have a lot of the resources that we have in Baton Rouge. We are blessed to have an LSU, a Southern, we have a downtown on the river industry, but I saw other communities with less assets outpacing us. You would see more people moving into those communities than moving out of. So I decided to submit myself in service again as your mayor president. Look forward to engaging in you all's discussion this evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll dive right into the first question that we'll have for tonight. It's in regards to public safety. Public safety and crime are definitely hot topics and very important issues that we have in the community. What would you do to reduce crime and work with law enforcement for public safety to enhance the public safety that we need here in the city of Baton Rouge?
It's me, Michelle.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, I got you. Well, here again, working where I'm working, where my boots are on the ground, I see it firsthand. A lot of the crime issue deals with hopelessness. It deals with a lot of despair. It deals with young men and women not having opportunities. There's also the policing part. I don't believe you can police your way out of crime, but right now our law enforcement officers are shorthanded. So there's no real community policing. They're basically just responding to calls. There was a day when policemen were honored. There was a day when every kid in the neighborhood knew who the officer was. Should I say friends with them, and they knew people. And the key word is trust. You know, we've got to build that trust back with the law enforcement. But you have to have at least 100 more officers on the street. And that's not to throw anyone in jail. That's not to arrest everyone and, the guy that's littering and all that, but it's a presence. But I go back to it again. Our young men, I'm around a lot of them, and they don't feel there's a way out, and they don't feel the opportunities are there for them. And we've got to change that mindset, but we also got to give them reasons of how they could do things better for themselves. So the educational piece, working with the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, a little bit deeper, the educational piece to help these young men and women feel that there is a future out there. But make no mistake about it, Baton Rouge is not a safe city. And that's not just privy to North Baton Rouge. It's not safe at all. I ask women all the time, are you comfortable going to get gas on Highland Road at 9 o'clock at night? And they're not. And to me, it's the top part of my platform. It's the number one thing, I'm going to attack. We want a peaceful, hopeful city.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's three different areas, Ms. Thomas. Of course, there's a law enforcement side. I've said since the beginning of this race that my intent and focus is to force our 11 different law enforcement agencies to collaborate a lot more and work more together in terms of sharing technology, sharing intelligence in order to make sure that they are better responsive on the law enforcement side. We have had instances where, it's a violent weekend in East Baton Rouge Parish and there's a press conference when everyone comes together until the next violent weekend. We need structural multi-agency units to work in our high crime areas. We are not going to ignore that there should be a level of accountability there as well. I worked in the legislature and I did a lot around police reform. So we got to make sure that every single officer recognizes that they are responsible to uphold the law. We also have to recognize that there's a huge lack of trust because of several incidences in our community, namely most recently the Brave Cave, where we saw just last week, there was another instance where one of the law enforcement officers did not provide all of the body camera footage. And we're constantly seeing those things. Those things erode the public trust. So that's a large part of it. How do we increase their public trust? The second thing is jobs, right? We have to take Employ BR, which is our employment agency, get them to be more focused on services and less compliance. We have to make sure that they're better aligned with BRCC and our local schools to expand job opportunities to young people. I created a program when I worked for the Urban League where we took students at Scotlandville and created opportunities so that they graduated with a diploma and industry recognized credentials. We also have to expand some of the work that's being done throughout other organizations here in East Baton Rouge Parish that we know are preventing crime. We know are working, providing services in the areas that Coach talked about that we know have the blighted communities. Blighted communities drive crime. Litter-filled streets drive crime because when you see a community that hasn't invested in itself, you don't have that pride in you don't have that pride in where you are. You don't have that sense of pride in place. So you need to show folks that you are willing to invest in them to make sure that we're eradicating crime from the root causes. And the last thing, Head Start. And of course, this is a longer issue, a long-term issue, but we have to make sure that our Head Start is. So you got the timer on me there. We got to focus on Head Start to make sure our young people are better prepared as well.
Thank you so much. There is a timer for everyone. So we are fair for everyone. So you will hear the timer and then you'll say thank you. Awesome. Moving to our next question. Baton Rouge traffic congestion has been a well-known problem that affects us and our quality of life, sometimes even businesses and our environment. As mayor, what are some specific solutions that you would propose to improve our traffic flow, upgrade our infrastructure, and reduce our commute times? In that, also include how would you prioritize funding the initiatives to address our transportation issues? Mr. James?
Yeah, I will start directly with going to the Movie BR program and changing the priorities, right? If you look, go for folks that are listening, I invite you to go to the website and look at the completed projects, and you will see on what side of town those projects are on. We have to prioritize those projects where we know there's traffic congestion. The second thing is we have to work more regularly with our legislative delegation to pull in state resources to help eradicate some of our traffic congestion by being able to pull in state dollars for massive projects and be able to use more of our local dollars. The same thing we have to do on the federal side to pull in some of the $1.3 trillion infrastructure dollars that we have not been able to pull a significant portion. Infrastructure also includes broadband. There are areas in this parish, Northeast High School, way too often they can't use their Chromebooks, right? They can't use the technology. So we have to make sure that we are pulling in those resources to expand broadband as well. One of the things, and I know I'm gonna run out of time, but when we looked at 2 weeks ago, there was a State Department of Transportation roadshow where they talked about the priorities in Baton Rouge, and our priorities have changed under this governor's administration in the last. So they've taken a few of the projects that would have helped to alleviate East Baton Rouge traffic congestion. So my work with the legislature will be also working with the new administration to advance some of our top priorities in East Baton Rouge Parish to alleviate traffic.
Waiting on Simon. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Edwards.
Well, when you look at the infrastructure problems and the infrastructure issues, I do see a tale of two sides of town on some of them. Move Baton Rouge has been a good thing. It's just not moving fast enough. To me, one of the things I'm looking at, and this would, need to have some help federally and state, is widening Airline Highway from the old bridge all the way down to I-10, I-12, because that would divert so much traffic off that interstate. The Washington Street exit is another issue. We got a new one, a fairly new one, and that log jam coming off of from West Baton Rouge down the bridge is tough. The Project Nicholson. So there's a lot of things. I mean, when I'm seeing a lot of repaving and sidewalks, and I mean that's good. It's good for our community, but we got to get the traffic moving. And all the way, I've got simple solutions all the way. I mean, if I look at an LSU football game, and I went to the Southern football game, and I look how traffic moves. Okay, and sometimes if you have enough officers, enough personnel, constable's office, whoever you could get to help move traffic during hot topic times, it may be the holidays, it may be Christmas, it may be an event at the River Center, but all those things have to be looked at because we all sit in it. I come into work, which is an easy drive for me. You're just stuck in it. As far as where's it on my priority on the finances, crime and blight and homelessness are my top three. So infrastructure is extremely important, but it's going to fall fourth, okay? Because we got to fix those other things. Another part with infrastructure is let's get lit. This place is dark. There are street lights out all over the place, especially the side of town, the community I work in. Heck, right here tonight, we need to brighten and light this city up as well. So to me, that's one of the toughest tasks, getting this traffic moving. And it'll certainly, it's on the platform. It just falls. I got to fix the other stuff first when I get in.
Yeah, Ms. Thomas, I'd like to add something.
Hold on one second.
Yep. Was that Ted's bell or my bell?
That was your
okay.
That was your bell. Mr. James, you'll have a 1 minute rebuttal.
Yeah, not really a rebuttal. Just wanted to, one of the things, Coach mentioned, airline, and it's a major artery here, and some conversations are happening at the state level that are decades old about some things. And I think that the most important thing, we have to have these conversations just like we're having conversations around the campaign. And when we talk about alleviating traffic, when we talk about blight, these major programs, we can't just do them in a vacuum. So for a large part of my administration would also be just like we're campaigning and asking for support, is to talk about these major projects, because some of these conversations are happening in a vacuum and the general public doesn't know. So my commitment will be to ensure that we're having regular communication about those projects, because these are, number one, our tax dollars, and number two, when we talk about just how does it impact the flow of traffic, how does it impact businesses along the areas, we got to do a better job of having those conversations before construction.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next question regarding minority business support. So minority-owned businesses are vital in our economy here, as well as the diversity that we have. For yet many businesses, they face challenges in accessing resources, funding, and support. As mayor, how would you ensure equitable access to opportunities and resources for businesses to thrive? Mr. Edwards. Sorry. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I was driving down Plank Road today, and some called me. I looked at all the businesses that used to be businesses that are now shut down and blighted. I also looked at people on side of Plank Road selling goods, selling services, cooking, and all that. And I just think some of our current local businesses need help. We want new businesses. We want to get minority-owned businesses, just not on Wimborne and Plank, throughout the city. But the ones that are out there now, struggling and they need some help. They need some intervention. And I don't know why. I just was thinking it. They had a gentleman, and he was cooking right there off of Evangeline. And I stopped and ate, and it was excellent. And I wondered I just said to myself, I wonder if this gentleman had an opportunity to be funded, to be supported, to have a place. And we have thousands of abandoned places along the corridor. So that's something for me, is exploring that. How can we grow that? What are we going to do to support and help? There are not a lot of minority-owned businesses in North Baton Rouge. There are some, but there's not a lot. I can't speak intelligently throughout the whole parish. Okay, I know some. I attend to some my own self. But I think it's extremely important for the diversity of our parish that all businesses get that support and get that help, and help them get their feet off the ground and be supported.
Yeah, I think it's a threefold approach. Number one, we don't have an economic development coordinator in city parish government, nor do we have any specific relationship with one of our economic development partners to help us in that regard. So very early on, we will have the structural components in the mayor's office to tackle economic development. Now, economic development under my administration won't just look like economic development of yesterday when we talk about just recruiting major industries. Of course, we do that in concert with the state and other partners, but we also have to focus on entrepreneurship. We have to do three things in that regard. The technical assistance. I know it from the SBA that we have a lot of business owners. Just because you have an LLC, just because you have an Instagram page, that does not make you a viable business in terms of being able to address capital concerns. So my administration will be working to make sure that there are not only loan dollars, but grant dollars to make sure that small businesses have opportunities to grow. In terms of government contracting, that is a huge way to build capacity. We have to. 2 years ago when I joined the SBA, I talked about certifications. That's just the first part. We have to make sure that we're doing some things so that businesses can take those certifications and then actually be able to meet the qualifications of a contract. We have to do that by a procurement academy that I've talked about several times. It's a 10-week program that they do at the city of San Antonio. Has a 10-week procurement academy that they show business owners how to not just get those certifications, but how to turn those into contract and opportunities so that they can grow from a 2 and 3 person business to a 7, 8, and 9 person business. Over the past 2 years, I worked several companies right here become 8A firms in the federal government. That means that they get a chance to benefit from contracts that they only have to compete within a smaller pool. And it's been a major resource for minority, women, and veteran-owned companies. We will expand that work here and do something very similar in the city parish. But the major thing is the information. So we have to partner with the SBDCs, the multiple chambers to make sure that we are getting them the information so that our entrepreneurs have the technical assistance and help that they need to go after not just capital but contracts.
Thank you so much. For a follow-up question in regards to small businesses, are there specific additional strategies that you would have for small businesses and any initiatives that you have not discussed that they should, or that as mayor you will make available for the actual small business owners?
Yeah, I think that the technical assistance that I mentioned, there are several partners that are doing the work here in East Baton Rouge Parish. Many times folks don't know about them. In City Parish, we need to make it easier on folks. So permitting, licenses, make it easier on entrepreneurs. Major corporations have people that are doing this for them. Our entrepreneurs are what I call chief everything officers. So you don't have somebody doing business development. You don't have someone doing your taxes. The chief everything officers are doing everything. So we have to make sure that we have the technical help from those through the partners. When I talked about access to capital, there are cities out there that are aggressively using federal dollars for grants and small low interest loans for entrepreneurs. So we looked at opportunities for investing in or moving downtown or on North Street or in North Baton Rouge. We can tie in some of those dollars aggressively working with the federal delegation to pull in some federal dollars to do so.
Thank you so much. Mr. Edwards, follow-up question. Are there specific strategies for small business owners as mayor that you would implement for their stability?
Well, I think, like Ted was talking about, the federal grants, assistance, trying to get these business owners some help. And you got another thing, I said it already, like minority-owned businesses don't have to just be, in North Baton Rouge. I mean, parish-wide. We do have an issue in North Baton Rouge that I'm talking about. The ALICE score there is very low. The median income's low. And there's that piece there. People who open up businesses, they want to be able to serve people that can buy their business, that can serve them. So to me, it has many tentacles, many things you have to work on for that thing to work.
Thank you so much. Moving to our next question in regard to economic growth and job stability. Great paying jobs is something that's essential for the stability and prosperity of East Baton Rouge Parish. What are specific strategies that you would implement to attract new business, support, and create more high quality jobs in our community? Mr. James.
Kind of piggybacking off the last answer, one of the major things that we have to work on is when we talk about the recruitment of industries to East Baton Rouge Parish. Of course, that will be a part of my administration working with not just the city parish, but State Department of Economic Development and Baton Rouge Area Chamber. But we also have to have the same intent and focus for entrepreneurs when we talk about, tax incentives. We do that for major corporations. We have to look at opportunities there. Retooling and repurposing employee BR is very, very important when we talk about the training opportunities for those skilled labor jobs that we know are huge to our economy. Right now, the highest job creator in the state of Louisiana has been the healthcare industry for the last 4 years. So we need to start working on, and I've already had conversations with BRCC about allied health and other medical related programs that we can start working with our young people in dual enrollment throughout the summer and throughout the school year to make sure that they're better prepared for those jobs as well. So it'll take a lot of focus working with our new superintendent on the younger side to make sure that our graduates have those opportunities, as well as better partnerships with BRCC. The last thing I'll say is we need to also align the workforce and the economic development in cities our size. Most of the times those functions are in the same department, so that we are recruiting for the jobs that we have folks that are trained, and not recruiting for jobs and then saying that we'll promise to have folks trained at a later date. So if we could combine them and have them working more in concert, I think that will help us as well. And then the legislature needs to raise the minimum wage as well.
Thank you, Mr. James. Mr. Edwards.
Well, when we're looking at economic development, and I hate to sound like a broken record, we had a forum not long ago about Southern University, and there was talk back there, back at that forum about the Bluffs, one of the most beautiful places, probably the most beautiful place in the parish, and there was talk about fixing it up, revitalizing it, making it really nice. And I brought up the thing, what about the front porch of Southern University? I mean, what businesses are right there in that area, in terms of economic development? I mean, that is the Southern University. I mean, and I can tell you, it looks different, their front porch at Southern than it does at LSU. And I'm not chopping on LSU, but until we fix the blight and the crime and the homeless situation and the lack of mental health care for those people, I don't know if I am a business coming from out of town that this is a destination of choice. Those things have to be fixed first. Here again, when I'm saying, when I talk about infrastructure, like might be forum is, economic development is absolutely important. But I go back again to what area of town. The whole parish needs it. But where I'm working at now, there is the greatest need for economic development, which will create jobs and create opportunities for the young men and women I minister to, and people like them all over the parish. But the eyes tell the tale. I mean, we have several places, several businesses that have moved out. Walk-Ons moved their headquarters. Todd Graves and Raising Cane's moved their headquarters. I wish I could tell you why. I don't know why they moved them. But people are trying to get out of Baton Rouge. They're not trying to come in. And if we don't fix the blight and the homelessness and the crime and the city's dirty, and if we don't fix and clean this up, it's going to be really tough to convince someone to say, hey, come here.
Thank you so much. Moving to our next question. In regards to East Baton Rouge Parish Jail, the conditions of individuals detained in East Baton Rouge Parish Jail have been ongoing concerns for our community. As mayor, what are specific strategies that you would implement to improve safety and well-being of those being detained in our parish jail? Mr. Edwards.
It's terrible. It's it's antiquated. It's old school, whatever you want to say. And the need, number one, the need for a new parish jail is high. But you got to understand, I say it again, it's not to lock people up. It's not to build a bigger, more secure facility or anything like that. This jail has to have different components. It's got to have a mental health unit in it. It has to have an education component in it. It needs to be built to help those that are incarcerated, to help them get out and rehabilitate. But at the same time, the living conditions there are not good. And and then there is a need for more holding space, because some of our crime that's happening is folks that are habitual offenders. Okay, I'm not talking about the guy on the corner doing something scrupulous. I'm talking about the violent offenders and all that. A lot of times they're boom, they're out. They need to be helped. But my whole deal, it's got to be a holistic facility to help people, to help them rehabilitate, everything from medical care to the mental health aspect. Along with that parish jail, we need to talk about getting a psychiatric hospital here. Right now, a lot of the people are being brought into some of the local clinics and given methadone and thrown Narcan and thrown back on the street. And there's a lot of mental illness in our city right now. And these folks just plain need help. So my thing is, I do have a plan. I'm not out to announce it tonight. It would be premature. I don't want Ted to steal it. So I got some thoughts and ideas on that will be good for our parish.
Mr. James.
Yeah, I think that this is an area where you hear a lot of agreement. It's not, we know the need. We are very close to, and we've heard this for years. One of the council members has been leading the conversations. I appreciate that, and it's community driven. So we need to expand on that conversation. But, the future has to have the jobs training component. It has to be very, very focused on rehabilitation and services. We study, and I study a lot of models as former chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee. There are other parishes who are doing it the right way. What we need is a community model that includes prevention, diversion, and reentry. Right, recognizing that every person there is not going to be in East Baton Rouge Parish for a very long time. We need to look at the way we police as well. When we talk about the fact that our jail is overpopulated, we spend millions of dollars every year housing people in East Baton Rouge Parish Prison in other parishes because we don't have the capacity. We need to be focused on violent crime, not flooding the jail with possession of marijuana. That's the first thing that we need to do in order to address the capacity issues. I think the third thing that we have to talk about is the entire system, right? The system doesn't work if the DA's office and the public defender's office aren't fully funded. You cannot have a table that's stable if one leg is not at full strength. So when we have this conversation, it has to include all of the tentacles and the tools to ensure that rehabilitation, job training is a focus. And again, we need to also have the same conversation with our youth facility as well. So it's in deplorable condition. So when we go through this and have this conversation, it has to include both.
Thank you so much. We'll have our final question for tonight in regards to North Baton Rouge and bridging the gap of inequality. North Baton Rouge has long faced some disparities in healthcare access, education, infrastructure compared to other areas and parts of the parish. As mayor, what are specific actions that you would take to bridge the inequality, ensure investment in North Baton Rouge? Mr. Edwards. Sorry.
Well, this is a sensitive topic for me. It's a forgotten part of the city. People don't want to go out there. The citizens of North Baton Rouge are fine citizens. 98% of them want to do right. 98% of them keep their yards up. 98% of them work hard. 98% of them have 2 and 3 jobs. And it has been neglected and forgotten. And I'll say this, my boots have been on the ground, whether I was coaching at a Struma or not, in that community for 40 years, doing what I can within the realms of what I can do. I will open an office, my own self, a satellite office in North Baton Rouge on Plank Road. My boots have been on the ground there 40 years. They'll stay there. I'm running for the whole parish, but my heart is over there. And I see every day the despair and the neglect. A lot of those young people over there feel there's only a couple of ways out, and the world is not open to them. It's amazing. I took 2 boys to the LSU game, and not only they had never walked in the stadium or been around it. There's a world out there for them. This North Baton Rouge community is going to rise again under my administration. It's going to look completely different. It's going to be a part of the city on the hill. It's going to sparkle and it's going to shine. And we're going to clean the place up for them and give them opportunities and do it the right way. Here again, I've just never had, I'm not a politician. I'm just a ball coach. I'm just a regular dude. And I think politicians have had long enough, maybe 40, 50 years to get North Baton Rouge right. And it hasn't happened yet. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think in terms of infrastructure, you see it, the proof is there, right? We've seen major movement in terms of infrastructure in North Baton Rouge within the last 2 months. Those things should have been happening over the past 7 years. So when I talk about reprioritizing Move Baton Rouge, that's what I mean. Move EBRs is making sure that the dollars are there in terms of infrastructure, not in the last year of my term, but in the first year of my term. The second thing, blight elimination. We talk a lot about it. I've said a few weeks ago, I talked about how important Build Baton Rouge was. And I told folks that over the past several years, Build Baton Rouge hadn't built anything. Since I made that statement, now they are looking for a permanent director to lead the program because they are the redevelopment authority, the arm that should be leading the charge in redeveloping North Baton Rouge. So as a candidate, I'm already influencing things in North Baton Rouge. So as mayor president, I'm going to make sure that we put and strengthen those organizations. I am going to use my appointment authority in Build Baton Rouge to get folks that are aggressive, to get folks that are innovative, to make sure that we have a housing plan. We do not have a plan. We do not have a blight map. You can't look at where blighted communities are. What we have to do is East Baton Rouge Parish, City Parish, has to get its act together. There have been countless stories over the past 3 months about homes that are owned by the City Parish that are sitting there blighted, right? I've also talked a lot about code enforcement. We can't have a singular conversation and saying, oh, we have too many of our neighbors in homes owned by people that don't live here, slumlords, and get aggressive on code enforcement for them if the city parish is negligent on its responsibility to eliminate blight in the community. So we have to get our act together as a parish. We have to use a model like Detroit did when they rebuilt, and not with different types of communities. We have to have walkable communities. We have to look at more single family homes. We have to use the federal dollars now. HUD dollars that we misuse or don't use in fast enough, we have to use those to bring down payment assistance. There are mayors all across the country with programs for down payment assistance for single mothers, teachers, law enforcement agencies, government workers, to ensure that they have the benefit of home ownership. We can do those things. That's why I talk about bringing on a federal grants coordinator that can help us do that. My heart is in this entire parish. But we know where the needs are, and we have to deploy the resources and empower the organizations that have the ability to do it. The North Baton Rouge Economic Development District, I'm responsible for the largest appropriation that they have ever received. This organization has been around for 20 years. We need to do more of that, because even the $250,000 that I was able to get them, that's nothing in compared to what the needs are. So we have to work with the legislative delegation to pull more resources there, but we have to have a plan. And I have one, and I'm proud for you all seeing it and putting it in play.
Thank you so much. We don't have any additional questions from the audience at the current time. So we've covered many topics tonight, and it's time to hear your final thoughts. In 1 minute, please share your closing statements. This is your chance to summarize your vision, reaffirm your commitment to the community, and let voters know why you are the best choice for mayor. Mr. Edwards.
First off, Ms. Sherry, thank you for having me, and to Ghettowaze for having me. It's an honor to be here. Here again, I go back, not being a politician, which you got to understand is I don't owe anybody anything. I'm running for you. I want to be the mayor, president of East Baton Rouge Parish. I want to bad, because I've discovered the job I can do for all the people. I am a man of the people. But I don't have to be. I want to be, but I don't have to be. I just know that if I can get into that seat, the huge difference I can make. I just ask you to go to your Lord tonight and pray about it. I mean, the campaigns, I've learned so much. I mean, there's been attacks on myself and my family, and I don't know, I don't know that world, but I know my heart. So I just ask you, when you're making a decision, because there's 7 people in this thing that have the courage and were brave enough to run. I have shown nothing but respect to these people. But I'm going to ask you to ask God, and when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, is this coach, is this old ball coach Sid Edwards, can he make a difference in my life? Can he make a difference in this city? Let God tell you. I can only say so much. I do know I'm the right guy at the right time for this parish. And I would ask you to consider pulling the lever for Coach Sid Edwards 36 on the ballot.
Thank you so much. Mr. James.
Yep. Thank you. Ms. Thomas, thank you, Ghettoways. We have to continue this, not just in campaign season, but when it's time to govern, we have to make sure that we come back to this platform to talk about the things that are happening once you all elect me. Look, you all, this has been a very long campaign. It's been 8 months for me. I've seen in the last 8 months the strength of this entire community. You all know the level of intention and focus that I paid as just a general member of this population, as a state representative, as your SBA regional administrator. Didn't get it all right, but there's no one that's going to outwork me, and there's no one that can look to and look at the amount of successes that we were able to achieve in the legislature. That pales in comparison to what we can achieve when you elect me as your mayor president. 8 years is long enough to know if something has gone right. We know from infrastructure to crime to housing to blight, we know that we can do better in East Baton Rouge Parish. I have continued to talk about issues, while other folks have continued to talk about me. And that's perfectly fine, because I'm not running for Ted James. I am running for each and every person in this parish has shown and demonstrated the ability to lead us, and I hope that you consider number 38.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you both for being here with us tonight. Each one of you have covered many topics that we have. Also, too, in regards to Ghettoways, thank you, Ghettoways, for hosting this candidate forum, and we look forward to Tuesday. Thank you so much again. As we wrap up, thank you for sharing your perspectives, and we believe in informing the citizens and engaging in our thriving community. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.